guys, it's April and I'm here with some recommendations. Well, I don't know if you can call it recommendations. I think it's more of a list of books that Booktube made me do. So this is all your guys' fault. All of this down below. And down below, but I mean my lap. All of this in my lap is your fault. So I discovered Booktube about 3.5 years ago, about a month before I actually started doing Booktube, and my reading life has drastically changed because of it. There are a whole slew of books that I read specifically because someone on Booktube has mentioned them. And so if I listed them all off here, we'd probably be here for a couple hours. I decided to just pick the top 7 that came to mind so that you wouldn't have to sit here for hours on end. Of course, this topic would not be possible if the monthly recommendation group hadn't brought it to my brain. I will list all the information down below in case you are interested in joining the group, or if you want to find more books that you could possibly binge. Information down below. Check it out. I have to start off with the first book that started all of this whole Booktube thing off for me, and that would have to be Cinder by Marissa Meyer. I know a lot of people already know about this whole series. This is the first book in the Lunar Chronicles series. It is retellings set with a sci-fi theme. This one, of course, being centered around Cinderella. There are cyborgs and people who live on the moon. I absolutely adored this series. This is a book that I had picked up several years before and hadn't read it for whatever reason, and then I discovered Booktube, and then of course it was everywhere on Booktube, and I decided I needed to read it, binged it, bought the whole rest of the series, binged all of that. Now Marissa Meyer is one of my favorite authors. Go figure. The next book is the first read-along book club thing that I did because of Booktube, and that is Ready Player One by Ernest Cline. Christina Horner did this read together Goodreads thing that I got trapped into. So the original copy that I read was an ebook because I wasn't sure if I was actually going to like the book. I ended up loving this. This isn't even the first copy I bought after that ebook. I later bought this book because, let me find it for you, because it is signed. So I have owned various different copies of this book. I think this is the final copy I will own. I think it is all of the 80s references in this book, and the arcade style and the virtual reality. Something in my soul just really connected with this book, and I enjoyed it so very much. And then came The Raven Boys by Maggie Stiefvater. I had never heard of Maggie Stiefvater's before. I saw a whole bunch of people just starting talking about this book, and I basically picked it up because of the cover. I originally read it through the library, loved the series so much that I have since gone out and I've purchased all of these books. This book just has such a dark, mystical feel to the whole thing that I fell in love with it immediately. It talks to the darker part of who I am, which isn't really that dark. But I really enjoyed this series, just seeing Blue and Gansey and the friendships that form with all of these boys. I really, truly enjoyed it. And now the series is, of course, one of my favorites. Thank you, Booktube. Horror Store by Gadri Hendricks. This book. This was on a whim, guys. I was watching through Booktube for whatever reason. I saw someone hold up this book, and then they just started showing me how much it was like an IKEA catalog, and the gimmick got me. And then I read it, and the story got me. Now this one speaks to my Halloween spirit. Halloween is one of my favorite holidays, and so I really love horror, and just the style and the kitschiness of this book. Love it, love it, love it, love it, love it so much. And I don't even know how to explain my feelings on this book. I believe I did a review, so I will link that, but this book, yes, thank you. And then on the realms of just seeing beautiful books and then being compelled to buy them because of Booktube, there is, of course, Illuminae by Amy Kaufman and Jay Kristoff. This probably never would have been on my radar if people hadn't started showing arcs of this from BEA. At least I believe it was BEA that everyone was all of a sudden getting arcs from this one. And just the style, the fact that it's got so many different things going on. I mean, and not just even text format. There's images and everything else. And then, yeah, that. Another gimmick that just pulled me in this series. I am currently reading Obsidio right now. Okay, it's been sitting on my nightstand for a while. I'm really hoping to actually get to it soon. I'm probably gonna binge that one, but the series, I couldn't do this list without doing Solace by Gail Carriger. This is such a witty Victorian vampire werewolf novel that I don't know how I've been living without knowing about this. I had gotten into this place where if you mention vampires or if you mention werewolves, I was so over it. But then I started hearing little bits and pieces about this series that I was intrigued, and then I checked it out from the library because I'm like, okay, so I kind of know what this is about. If I'm interested, I guess I'll finish the rest of the series, but if I'm not, if it's just one of those, then it's not gonna happen. Obviously it happened. I giggled my way through the story like you will not believe, and I am patiently waiting for more in this universe right now. Patiently. Or not so. And finally, I had to include The Final Empire by Brandon Sanderson, also known as Mistborn. I would have never, ever picked up this series if I hadn't been hearing about it on Booktube. I started seeing it on everybody's bookshelf, saw this edition of the book as well. I'm a very visual person. So seeing people holding this edition, telling me about what this story was, I eventually just purchased it, and I have binged all of these books since then. And these, you wouldn't think is bingeable books because they are so stinking big, but I usually read these within like 3 or 4 days. I love the way Brandon Sanderson writes, and just to find out that he is originally from my area makes me feel even more connected to him because there aren't a lot of authors that I know about. I can name 2 right now that I know of. This is now a thing in my life, and eventually, someday, I will meet the man. That's gonna happen. It has to happen. So those are a few of the books that Booktube made me read. Thank you very much. I appreciate it so much, and I have a feeling there are going to be some pretty good books that are going to happen in my future. Leave some down below if you have some ideas of what I should read, and I heart your beautiful faces. Bye.